It's because she was most emphasized. She's not. It's exactly
as they live, yes, they, you know, separate.
You said you I just need to know what they're going to use.
So what if they don't get? We have parents who want to have kids.
There's like several divisions.
You
Gotta stop using everlasting batteries.
No.
The big bunch.
his dentures in?
Yes.
So we have some things. I just thought that dog was funny.
I see.
On the registration, there's
I don't care. Who's it like? Also, I have been told do what I want until I don't know if I have a FedEx office anywhere. At least that was package stuff.
yeah.
But you know, they're not going to take that high.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah.
No.
You want me to drive you back there and go?
My fiance's going to drive back up.
Shoulders. It's crazy.
I appreciate it. Also love your shoes. Excuse me.
I get everything.
That's where I got my wedding shoes.
As long as they're comfortable, it doesn't matter, right?
And I got them for $35. Join me.
Yeah, it's okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Spent dinner stuff with my mom.
Ready. I have to think about those things. One of the girls from the women's club was sending you line. We didn't say, oh, awesome. Wasn't that great? She does a great job promoting. Thank you very much.
Today she walked around and said something about good idea. She's like, I'm watching that. She was like, this one's allowed. So we throws you for a little bit. My mom, Debbie, hi. No, I don't think that really. Yeah, because you said I talked about it. She just. No. Okay. That was my second step on.
I know to see it. I was very sad. No, you don't. I don't want to subject anybody.
How's it going? I don't even worry about
That's okay, staying. It's grown awesome beer. Surely.
I went to my sister's. I made her. She did her. It was great. I did Reno for like an hour and a half with money.
Are they the selfies?
So we all got the chairs and like and I understand that there's weird things. There's so much stickiness.
I'm a professional father in my room. Yes, his message in the mailbox first.
I was just saying something.
That's a seven.
Yeah, that's right.
But she was hopefully no one knows who's singing.
She was so we're all in the hallway now. And they're like, should we come? Should we come? I was like, and they're the size that the size of step back, and then you're supposed to
Okay, excuse me.
Yeah, you can hear me there.
Hard to hear you.
Yeah, plenty of seats up front. Where did
The originals, like, you know,
Here's Eve.
Can everybody hear me? Okay, I'd like to get the meeting started. It's after 7 o'clock. My name is Michael Parker. I'm the chairman of the Board of Finance. This is really the Board of Finance's meeting in which we conspire with the town officials to present the town's budget and give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you may have or present any concerns that you may have. The question and answer portion will come at the end after the presentation by Dr. Galloway and Tim Keeney, presenting the budgets for both the school department and the town. Before we begin, I'd just like to make one comment on behalf of the Board of Finance to let you know what our thinking was in adopting the budgets. As many of you may know, we have accepted the school's proposed budget, the school department's proposed budget, as they presented it. And that's been placed in the overall town budget as presented. The same happened with respect to the town's budget. There was a shorting of about $75,000 from the town's budget in preparing the final budget presentation. The capital improvement budget was also reduced. But other than that, there were no reductions in the presentations from the town or the school or the capital budget. One of the things I'd like to say to you is why we accepted the budgets without digging into them. Number one, we're not sure in these times, given all that's happening both in Washington but also in the State House in Connecticut, we're not exactly sure what kind of funding the town is going to receive in the final analysis. We've been told to expect cuts in various areas. Some of those have still on the table. Others have been allowed to bypass, but we're not sure exactly how much the town is going to receive, and we're probably not going to be sure until sometime in July. We, of course, in order to get the bills out and get the funds coming into the town, need to have pretty much the rate set by June 5th. So, as I said, we've pretty much taken the budgets as they've been prepared and presented by the town officials and figured out how much money we needed to raise in order to cover those budgets. We have taken all of the money, with the exception of a few $100,000 out of the reserve funds, and we've left in enough, about 15% of our annual budget, to ensure that we maintain our bonding rate. We have a very good bonding rate, and we have a very good rate at which we can borrow money. So we've set aside enough money to make sure our bonding rate stays in place, and we've and we've added a couple $100,000. In addition, we've asked both the town and the school department to make sure that if they have, at the end of the year, excess funds that they haven't used for budgeted items, that those excess amounts be returned to the general fund so that next year we will have minimized the necessity of having to make another big increase in the mill rate. So the town officials, both the town and the school department, have agreed to that kind of a working relationship, so that even though they may have extra money in this budget, they're going to be very strict about returning what they don't use to the general fund. In the past, that's kind of been the unwritten rule, but in this difficult year, we've made sure that it's been expressed clearly by everybody and all concerned. So, with that said, I will, with your permission, turn the matter over to Dr. Galway, who will show you his basis for the school department budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You mind if I take the podium as well?
No, you may.
Okay, thank you. Thank you and good evening. My name is Sam Galloway, and for those of you who may not know me, I've been superintendent now in Summers for April 2 years. So thank you for coming tonight, citizens of the town of Summers, and also teachers, staff, faculty. It's good to see you here. Ladies and gentlemen, we've made incredible strides over these last 2 years. My task when I was hired was to find out what was happening in Summers. And our goal has been and will continue to be a premier school district in this state. We have the human talent, we have the family strength to make that happen. And you will start to see evidence of that as I go through my presentation. So I'd like to say a special thank you to our Board of Education. It's important for you to know that we are a high-functioning Board of Education. Most votes pass unanimously. That means that there is partnership and agreement. It doesn't mean that everything flies by. There's vigorous debate involved with all decisions that are made. But you have a high-functioning board. Next slide, please. I will take this opportunity to talk about the vision, the mission, and what we are trying to do for our students and families in town. Our vision has been and will continue to be to strive to be an exceptional and innovative educational community. Our mission is focused on preparing our students to be able to be successful in this global changing society. Slide, please. However, we are focused on 4 core competencies that will ensure success whether our students choose to go into college, the military, or the workforce. And those skills are as follows: critical thinking, collaboration, creativity, and communication. That starts at the elementary level and continues throughout our high school. We will always be student-centered. What you see on the screen right here are elementary students engaged in robotics. There's a vibrant robotics club at SES, and what you see also is to the right, where our students are engaged in leadership experiences that foster that collaboration, critical thinking, and problem solving outside of the classroom. Our student enrollment. At SCS, we have 645 students, and that is inclusive of our pre-K. At our middle school, we have 335, and at our high school, we have currently 359 students. Total students on campus, 1,339. We do have 40 students who go to either magnet schools or VOAG schools. Total student count on and off campus, 1,379. What I wanted to show you was the projections over time, over the 10 years. We are projected to continue to grow slowly. So, sometimes you're wondering, will we realize a student decline? Should we invest in curriculum? Should we invest in facilities? But as you can see, there's a small, steady increase over time. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is where I get to brag. Okay, and just to give you some context, there are 169 towns in this state. This town has 2 schools that have been named School of the Year. And let me just explain the process. There's a paper application that is submitted. Now, if you can imagine how many elementary schools there are in this state, and that is a sought-after distinction by school principals and school communities. So we submitted a written application. We made it through that written application phase, and were selected for a site visit. That means a team of educators and professionals from outside of this community come in to verify what you wrote on that application. Is it really happening, number one, and is it happening at a high level? And this year, I'm happy to report that our elementary school, an elementary school with over 600 students, was awarded this distinctive honor. For several reasons. We have an invention convention running at that school. That's where elementary students, under the guidance of a master teacher, create inventions with guidance, going back to those 4 core competencies that I spoke about earlier. There's a vibrant robotics and STEM club, and also they have what's called a Spectacular Spartan Initiative. That is where we're going old school. The principal actually goes to the students' homes, the students who are doing the right thing, goes to the student's home and awards the student that award. They have a student council at the elementary level. They support Champs Place in town. Very strong music program with over 200 students involved, and an accredited preschool. As I continue to brag on your town, on our town, last year, MBA was awarded this distinctive honor of Middle School of the Year. That is highly uncommon. So my suspicions were correct when I first arrived on campus. I believed to my core that we had the talent, the resources, the will, and ability to be high performing. And in 2 years, this town has been the recipient of 2 highly sought after awards. At MBA, they have the RISE program, which supports special education students. They held the Alex Lemonade Stand fundraiser. They raised over $5,000. They also have robotics and STEM clubs available for students to engage in, and a very strong junior achievement program where business professionals from this community go to the school and talk to students about entrepreneurship and financial acumen and what it's like to be in the real professional world. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about our high school. What I do want you to know is that based on our last school performance index scores, Summers High School is ranked number 23. That is up from number 63. So if we're focused on the right things at the right time, our kids perform, our teachers perform, our families support. They have run the high school trades fair 2 years in a row. Strong program where business professionals come to the high school, set up tables, and talk to students about what it's like to work in different fields. We have a partnership with Dr. Mallory Kane called the Mini Medical School. She started a program. She's a very young physician who reached out to me, and she started a program to let high school students know what medical school is really like. So she creates coursework and real-life experience for students to really understand and decide if that's a field that they want to go into. We have a strong performing arts program, vocational counsel, and we're running SAT prep classes to kind of hone skills in that area for students. Next slide, please. I also would like to inform the community of some of the collaborations that we have fostered or strengthened. As stated by Mr. Chairman, at the end of the year, if the Board of Ed has extra money, we'll happily turn that over to the town in support of what needs to be done at the end of the year. I'd like to talk about our SROs. We have two. They're both retired state troopers. They are responsive, they are personable, and they protect our campus. We have a very good relationship with the school's public library across the street. We meet there frequently, and in the spirit of partnership, we donated one of our projectors in the large room that's in there because we noticed that projector was not functioning well, so we put one of ours over there in the spirit of partnership. Our tech department is supporting the Veterans Office with updating their website. We have a great relationship with Public Works. Thank you, Todd, for our many 0430 phone calls and texts. Todd has been great to work with. He helps keep me informed about what the road conditions are in those wee hours of the morning. There's a few collaborative with the town, and I cannot say enough about the Summers Education Foundation, the way that they support our schools, and we are greatly appreciative of that. Now, moving on to our objectives. To maintain and improve our current programming, curricular, co-curricular, extracurricular activities for students, and to be fiscally responsible, and to maintain our staffing to support students in their growth and development. I'll start talking numbers. Through contract negotiations, our teachers are receiving a 3.81 overall raise. They work on a step system. There are 14 steps. Each step is a 0.75, and at step 15, that raise is capped at 2.5%. Administrators, paraeducators, and administrative professionals, all 3%. Nurses, 3.5. We have 4 nurses. Custodians, 3%. We have 14 custodians. And our unaffiliated folks, yet to be determined, depends on what happens later this year. Moving to our employee benefit snapshot, we have 49 folks who take single benefits, 35 dual medical, family benefits 78, total membership on the medical side is 162, and total on the dental side is 158. You can move next slide, thank you. Now here's the ask, and I think it's important to know. The one ask that we have this year is to support the purchase of a math K-8 program. We haven't had a math program in many years here that is vertically aligned, where we can actually in real time support students' growth. And that expense is $211,000. And that would affect, in my view, positively over 900 students. Now, here's the thing I would like you to know. If someone resigns, retires, there's a serious thought process and planning as to what our next steps will be regarding filling that position or not filling that position. So through that process, we did not fill 5.10 positions at a savings of $425,000. So what I want you to know is if someone leaves, we don't just automatically say, oh, we got to fill that. What I want you to know is, can we consolidate responsibilities without diminishing service to students? And we are able to do that with 5 positions this year. The paraeducator contract is a 3% increase, and the increase in utility delivery fees is 14.61%, and our insurance went up 10%. Now, just to inform you how our budget is set up, it's set up with object budget categories. 1,000s are salaries, 2,000s benefits, 3,000 professional services, 4,000 professional services, 5,000 purchase services, 6,000 supplies, 7,000 property, 8,000 dues and fees, and 9,000 other expenditures. What I think will be very clear, if you can move to the next slide, is the graphic representation of what our budget looks like when you are looking at salaries and benefits. The 1,000s, that's the blue area, you'll see there, that's 63.5% of our budget, and on the benefits side, that's 16.6% of our budget. And this is what it looks like in chart form. So the salaries and benefits comes out to 80.1%, and our other categories are 19.9%. So our ask this year, through first the Board of Education, which was unanimously supported, then to the Board of Finance, and thankfully they supported us as well, is 5.68%. As you can see, I hope you can see and feel that there is a positive energy about our school system, from our families, from our staff members. And we are not finished with our work. As I said, we have the ability to be a top flight school district, and we are well on our way. And that is our budget timeline. Just for informational purposes, I believe our vote is on May 22nd, if I'm correct.
May 20th.
No.
It's May 20th? May 20th? Yes, we had the 22nd there. So May 20th, we need support. I ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tim Keeney. If you don't know me, I'm the first selectman. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Dr. Galloway on the achievements of the elementary school this year, being selected the outstanding elementary school for the state. Really quite an achievement. I'd also like to thank you and congratulate you for the most impressive presentation I've heard in over 30 years from the superintendent of schools. So he's got quite a gift there. I must say, I don't have all the fancy pictures and other information for you, but it's going to be pretty straightforward, so it won't take very long, I can guarantee you. So the first slide we have here is basically the philosophy that we have here in Town Hall and the regimen we went through with regards to putting together this budget. First of all, we work on department collaboration. We have all public sessions meeting. We're transparent the way we put the budget together. All our decisions are data-driven. Our goal is to maintain and provide services, and in this case, we're providing current services, nothing new, at least nothing new as far as the budget goes. We think we're fiscally responsible, and of course we're also interested in delivering value for the dollars that are being provided to us. Next slide. Thank you. So the town proposed budget, we're asking for a 3.92% increase, which we think is kind of the bare minimum that we can request. We did reduce our budget by $120,000 before we presented it to the Board of Finance, and then we've taken another reduction of some Chairman Parker said some $75,000 since then as well. But as you can see, this year's budget is $9,289,798. It is an increase over last year's budget of $350,441. I'll explain the reasons for the budget drivers. Next slide. Thank you. So the drivers in this budget are large health insurance increase, energy and fuel costs, which of course have been occurring every year for many years, and long-term pension liabilities, which I'll further explain. Next slide. So with regards to health insurance, we've had to deal with an 11% increase in the state plan health insurance program this year, which is a significant increase, and in the past years we've had hardly any increase. And as you can see here, the slide starts out with the average cost per person per month is what the figures are. You probably can't read them from where you're sitting. But we started off with, before we joined the state partnership program, $1,832.35 per person per month was the. So people don't realize how expensive health insurance is, of course, with regards to our workforce. It went down when we joined the plan, and it's gone up since then, of course, most significantly in the last year, the 11% increase, which, again, we have no control over. But I think we are fortunate to be part of that state plan, and I think employees do well by being members. Next slide. This slide looks rather dramatic, and I'd just like to explain it to long-term insurance pension liabilities. What the Board of Selectmen decided to do this year was because of, for purposes of being fair and for recruiting purposes, we thought it was important to address the issue of firefighter pensions, volunteer firefighter pensions. These are pensions that figure that's been in place for the last well over 30 years, has been $5 per month earned for each year served, vesting after 5 years, and providing a benefit of at least 10 years after retirement. That applies to not only the individual, but also the individual spouse. This $5 per month has been in place for over 30 years, so we, as a Board of Selectmen, felt that was not really equitable as far as our volunteer firefighters were, so we doubled the pension, the amount, to $10 a month. And you might say, wow, that's a huge increase. Well, that's the first increase they've had in over 30 years. And if you look at it in comparison to other towns, the town of Enfield, at least one of their fire departments I know costs, the general benefit is $28 per month for that fire department. So relatively speaking, we're still sort of probably underpaying the pensions for the volunteer firefighters, but we're making a major step towards improving the fairness of that pension. So that's why we got the increase of $73,000 in this past year. But also the purpose of that is to build up the funded ratio for the pension. It was when it was at the $5 value, it was The funded ratio was 110%. Now it's down to 55%, but we anticipate building that up over the next couple of years by making payments into the pension fund ourselves. Next slide. This just gives you a breakdown of the budget in accordance with each department. And let's see, it's pretty self-explanatory. Of course, the Public Works is the largest. Benefits insurance is fairly large as well. Miscellaneous includes things like the COLA that we take out for purposes of paying town employees the following year, and separation payments, which we like to have a fund for people that separate the benefits that they're due, can be paid directly out of that fund rather than going to either the town or the Board of Finance for authorization to do that. And also, road maintenance is also included in that miscellaneous item. Next slide. Again, these are categorical budget. One thing I might mention here is that salaries and benefits for the town are 60%, and as you just heard from Dr. Galloway, for the school, they're over 80%. So I think that goes to show you that the salaries, certainly, and benefits included, are on the low side when it comes to being competitive with other towns. So this is something we're going to work on over the next year and try to come up with something that's a little bit more competitive as far as other towns are concerned. Next slide. So the categorical budgetary changes. The first thing we have here is the 2.5% salary pool increase. This, of course, is a COLA increase only. We spent several months in the town hall trying to come up with a pay for performance program where individual employees who go above and beyond what were expected of them by a significant measure can be recompensed for their additional efforts. However, we were not able to fund the pay for performance element in our budget this year. So there's no money in it, even though we created the program. So we're going to work on that for next year, of course, and maybe later in this year as well. We know we've heard from the Board of Finance, and they've been very supportive of what we're trying to do. The question is the timing, I guess, and this was not a good year to put extra dollars into that fund. So with regards to benefits, of course, health insurance premiums that increased are in there, and the firefighter pension increase is in there as well for the increase of $195,754. And the public safety is pretty minimal with regards to the increase there. Public Works, rates of, again, ever-increasing energy rates continue to drive this factor. And then the transfer station is another factor that it increases pretty much every year. We have a contract with USA Hauling. Some people might ask, why do you go to them? Well, number one, they're sort of one of the biggest providers around, plus they're the only organization that bid on our RFP. We put it out for services for the town. In the town services, we have this hybrid system where people can pay for services for collection at their house, but we also have to pay for the handling of that waste at the transfer station. That's pretty much it. Next slide. Again, this is the staffing that we have here in Town Hall for the town employees, not just Town Hall. We've gone down this past year down a half of an FTE. And this is just something that we think we're trying to hold current services steady and but yet provide the services needed by everybody here in town. Next slide. So our vision for the future, some of the top three priorities I'll mention. Of course, we have several priorities. The top three are development of the Summersville mill site. We're thinking, we're very much involved with Wind Development, a company out of Boston that builds apartment buildings, and we'd like to build an apartment building there with between 60 and 80 units. We're working on the environmental cleanup completion, which we hope to be able to complete with the state grant sometime this next year. And we've, of course, been working on environmental cleanup there for years, most actively in the last year or so. But we expect some significant advancement of this coming the beginning of January of 2026. And we're also meeting tomorrow with the Chief of Staff for the Governor, trying to get on the State Bond Commission agenda. And if we do get on the agenda, it'll be the first time ever the town of Somers has been on the State Bond Commission agenda. Let's see, also, number two is we're working with Todd Rowland's guidance and expertise, expansion of our sidewalk system. He's created a special committee that looked into the needs of the town, how to best configure the request, and over a period of years, we're talking about implementing a significant improvement to town sidewalks and extension as well, sidewalks where they don't currently exist. So even though this is not the most popular thing for some homeowners to have a sidewalk in front of their house, we think it's appropriate as far as being able to attend to the interests and needs of town residents. And then upgrade of the Summersville wastewater treatment facility. This is a facility that treats over wastewater for over 300 homes in Summersville area, and we received a grant for over $1 million from the federal government 2 years ago, and we're in the process now of working with Avery Construction, which is a local company, trying to put in new sand pits and new filtration systems for that treatment facility. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We now come to the second most exciting part of the evening. Brian Wissinger, our Chief Financial Officer, will talk about the details of the budget, the numbers that he's put together. Thank you.
Everybody hear me okay? I'm going to stay over here because I have to work the slides as well, so I don't have to stand at the podium.
I think he wants to get close to the door.
Yes. It also protects me when you start throwing things that can escape quickly. So the town government and the boards of education both presented their budgets, 9289798 for the government and 30,476,322 for the Board of Education. Our debt service this year, with the creation of the debt service fund back in 2023, we have begun implementing that. We've been able to keep our debt service flat. We fund a separate fund rather than having the general fund fluctuate annually. We fund a separate fund. We gain interest on those dollars. We use that interest to pay for debt service. So it allows us to earn dollars to pay for it rather than taxing residents to pay for it. We make all of our annual payments out of that. Any excess is saved for the next year to offset the increases. I don't have a chart for it, but if you saw the chart, the actual payments versus what we fund, it would look like a roller coaster of payments, and it would look like a very smooth plane if you saw the two stacked on top of each other. Capital improvements, again, staying funded at $350,000, the same as last year. Overall budget increase is a 5% increase over last year. As you can see, the Board of Education makes up 73% of the budget allocation annually. I believe that's actually down about 1% this year. Town government jumped up 1%. I think that's really just a rounding issue, but debt service makes up 4%, capital improvements 1%. I would caution against staying at a 1% with capital improvements, as we have aging infrastructure in town. Our buildings aren't getting any younger. So the better improvements we can make to our buildings will, in the long term, cut down on maintenance budgets and so forth as well. Our annual budget growth rate, this year it's 5%. On average, over the course of the last 8 years, has been a 3.04% increase. Average inflation over that same period of time has been 3.69%, so we have remained under the average annual inflation. The current year's inflation is 2.8, so while our budget growth is larger than that this year, over the course of the last 8 to 9 years, we have remained under. This chart just shows the last 8 years what the budget was and how it has grown. It's a total of $9.5 million over an 8-year period. It's about $1.2 million per year, average growth. Big question, how do we pay for everything? Just like most towns in the state of Connecticut, property taxes paid for the majority of the expenses in town, 71% in Summers. State aid is about 22% of what we receive. Those two combined is 93% of how we pay for things. Everything else is paid for by bank interest, earnings on our holdings, licenses and permits when you buy your transfer station dump permit, or you have to get a building permit. And then our use of fund balance fluctuates annually. This year it makes up about 3% of our revenues, and miscellaneous is the other 1%. Our grand list this year went down 1.5%. Two main causes of that were a change in the state law on how we assess motor vehicles in town, and the other would be on the solar field that was constructed up on Bilton Road. It was determined to be tax exempt, so that assessment, as well as the motor vehicles, are driving that down. However, revaluation is underway currently, so next year we should see a leveling off of the grand list, you could say. So these were the things I just mentioned. Statewide mandated motor vehicle depreciation schedule. Previously, every town just used a NADA book value, and that book value would fluctuate annually. Now, instead, they have changed it to where whatever year the motor vehicle is, you use the MSRP of the motor vehicle for that year, and then they have a depreciation schedule. The vehicles start at 90% of whatever the MSRP is and goes down 5% annually until the car is 15 years old. At 15 years old, it levels off and is not allowed to go any less than $500. That change reduced our motor vehicle revenues by $543,000 this year. The town of Summers, along with other towns and other consortiums in the state, reached out to state officials. We wrote letters. We advocated for a change. It was originally at 85% was where the motor vehicles began at on the depreciation schedule. The state proved to everyone that they can actually get things done and get it done quickly. It took them about 72 hours to create a law and get support and pass a law, and the governor to sign it to change the depreciation schedule starting from 85% to 90%. So the motor vehicles did adjust slightly, but it still does not bring the lost revenue back to whole. They also implemented a law on 100% permanent and totally disabled veterans in towns. Their properties, homes, and everything are 100% tax exempt if they meet the 100% permanent and total disabled by the federal Veterans Affairs. In the town of Somers, that equals $101,000 in revenue this year that was exempted from our tax rolls. And like I said, the solar farm up on Bilton Road was also a decrease in our personal property of $288,000 in revenue. So those three items alone, $932,000 of decreased revenue. It's right at 1 mil tax right there, just between those three items. As you can see, the grand list changes. The blue is the personal property in town, and orange is motor vehicles. Personal property over the years had started to go up, and then this year you see from 23 down to 24 it dropped drastically. The same with motor vehicles, they were going up, and then they've dropped drastically as well between the two grand list years. Mill rate history. Looking back on the last 8 years, we started at 27.37 8 years ago. We're now at proposing to be at 30.21 going into 2026. It's a total of a 2.84 mil increase in the last 8 years. It's an average of 0.36 mils a year that the town goes up. Assessed values in town, the average assessed home in town is $204,522. So you see what their current annual tax would be, a 1.25 mil increase. That's the annual amount that your tax bill would go up based on those home values. So the average home in town would see about a $255 increase in their tax bill from the prior year. Some comparisons around us. Town of Ellington, their proposed increase is currently at 1.5. It had started at 2.5. They went to their meetings and went in. They reduced one position and made some other revenue estimated changes. So they're now at 1.5 instead of 2.5. Tolland and Coventry both had revals this year, so their mill rates are dropping drastically because of that. And Stafford originally started at 2.3 mil increase. They went to referendum already and failed. So they have gone in and made drastic cuts as well, and now are proposing a 1 mil increase. But as you can see, we're not alone in this fight. Everybody is experiencing the same types of impacts from the motor vehicles and from the veterans, and we're all trying to navigate these waters together. This year we are using a large portion of fund balance. As Chairman Parker said, we're proposing a 1.167 use of fund balance. It's equal to about 1.22 mils. So if you take that plus the 1.25 mil increase that we're also asking for, you can see just how rough this budget was. Overall, it was almost a 2.5 mil difference to try and get these together. The last 7 years, the town has used almost 3.4 million of fund balance to balance budgets to avoid tax increases. It's an equivalent of 3.5 mils. The Board of Finance does have a policy to maintain a minimum of 15% of unrestricted fund balance, and that is to protect our bond rating and so forth, so that we can continue to borrow money at a lower rate than other towns. It also allows us, in case of a state of emergency or something like the winter storm Alfred, where everybody basically just has to get to work and handle things, and Public Works is working 24 hours a day around the clock. It allows you to fund those types of emergencies in that case. Historically, over the years, the usage of fund balance has varied. 2021, many of you remember, that was the COVID year. Rather than increasing any taxes that year, the Board of Finance voted to use fund balance to offset any increases. We've been as low as $75,000 of usage in 2023 and as high as 1.185 in the COVID years. Unassigned fund balances over the years and our percentages. The orange line is the recommendation benchmark set by the GFOA, that's the Government Finance Officers. They're a national organization that says you should have about 16.5% of your operating budget in reserves. As you can see, for many, many years, we have been well over that. This year, taking quite the dive from 24 to 25, but still remaining over the Board of Finance minimum of 15%. And so we'll move into public comment. Please feel free to come up and speak, state your name and address for the record, and limit your comments and questions to 5 minutes. Once everybody's had a chance to speak, we will open it for round 2 if anybody wants to come back up. And we will do our best to answer your questions right now, but if we don't have the information with us right now, we will reach out to you and get those answers posted online.
Brian, thank you. You heard his comment. Tonight, we're going to have an opportunity. This is the exciting part of the meeting, when you all can voice your concerns or present any questions that you have, one person at a time, and please keep your comments brief as you possibly can. You have 5 minutes. If we go through all the people who want to talk, and there are others who still have further things to say, we could have a second round. One of the things I want to say about the reserve fund and the use of the reserves, we're using a lot of the reserve. We're using $1.1 million out of the reserves. That sounds like an extreme act, but you have to remember that the money that's in the reserves over and above the amount that we need for bonding purposes, that money is really money that belongs to the taxpayers. That's money that you've paid in excess of our needs at the moment. So it's not that it's not important to have reserves that we can use for emergencies or things that come up, or if we need to hire somebody that we haven't had budgeted for or something like that. But using this reserve money in this time when we don't know what the funding is going to be from state and federal sources, we haven't got a final analysis of that. Using that reserve money is using your own money to keep from having to raise taxes. So keep that in mind as you consider that. Anybody have questions or comments for the assembled gathering here? No. Come on. Steve, I know you have a comment.
Oh, he's got a lot of notes.
Steve, son?
Yes.
Steve Krasinski, 55 Rose Road, Summers. You know I got to say something, okay? Dr. Galloway, congratulations on the 425K savings, okay? However, I'm a little surprised that with the 425K savings, your expenses still went up $1.6 million. That means with that savings, you got new money to operate this year, close to $2 million. That's a lot of money. And although it'll probably go through this year, it's not a path that we can continue on. We cannot continue to give you $2 million of new money every year to operate. So that's my comment there. Tim.
Duly noted.
Go ahead.
And understood by the Board of Finance and town. I'm well aware of that. And that's why I said, we just don't go on automatic if someone retires or leaves the district. we scrutinize that. So I'm well aware of what the ask is this year and what the ask was last year, so I'm very cognizant of that, so I appreciate that.
Okay. Can I say one more for Selectman?
Please do.
Okay. Tim, it's not a money issue, but you brought up on the slide. This has to do with the water treatment plant.
Right.
We're having trouble with the water treatment plant, I know that. It's getting fixed, that's good. However, your plan is to add about 119 more apartments onto that water treatment plant. I'm not sure you have the capacity to add the apartments down there and add another 119 units. I know all your studies are going to show it, because through the years, every time we add on to that plant, we keep showing we can add on. However, we're having problems, okay? That land cannot absorb all the water I think we're putting in there. That was put in there for a Center of Somersville project, but now we just keep adding to it. If you're going to add more, I think you need more land. Just my quick comment there. And the other thing is that, as far as the apartments go there, I have not talked to anybody that has been in great favor of using that land for apartments. They think it's a great place for a park, okay? And the people I talk to are sitting there saying, why aren't we leaving it as a park? So something you got to think about in the future, okay?
Thank you. I just want to mention one thing about the wastewater treatment plant. First of all, it's been there for about 40-some years.
I know, I put it in.
Yeah. It has not increased in the number of people that use it, by the way. It's less than 300. What were your other points about the plant? No.
The park.
Yeah, the expansion. Well, the park itself, of course.
Yeah, leave it a park. Leave it as a park.
I understand. That's, but the town does need additional housing. And we also need workforce housing.
Yeah.
It's what workforce housing is. It's a euphemism for low-income housing. And there's a lot of people that work in town that can't afford to live in town.
Yeah.
And we need to provide housing for them. So I think that I was chairman of the committee, at least the first year and a half, for deciding how we're going to clean up that site to begin with, get the old mill off of it, get a $2 million state grant to help us do that. And the determination of the thinking, unanimous thinking of the group was that the highest and best use for that property would be apartments. However, the housing proposal is the apartments we put on one side of the river, not the other side.
Yeah, okay.
So one side will be left
Oh, that's good.
public park. Plus, there'll be some kind of walkway, I'm sure, put in as well by wind development as far as public use of that side of the river goes.
Okay.
Tax.
All right.
Beg pardon?
Or tax with the apartment.
Yeah, and of course, it'll bring in additional tax revenue as well, to some extent. Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's it, Mike.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Usual suspects. Okay, I just have a few comments, maybe things to think about.
Could we have your name, please?
Oh, yeah, sure. Susan Peck, 91 Skyridge Drive, Summers. With regard to the schools, I just have a couple of questions, Dr. Galloway. At the high school, how many students are in a class, approximately?
That varies. I would say that we don't have many classes that have over 20 students.
Okay, all right. Because you only have 359 students. When my kids went to school, there was 150 kids in each class. So, yeah, there were.
Wow.
Yeah, in the early 2000s.
She means graduating year.
Yeah, each class. Oh, I'm sorry, each graduating class. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, I don't know who on this board would know. Has the population of Summers gone up at all recently, the last 5 years?
In the last 5 years, it's kind of varied. We had a couple of years where it did go down. It went up from 23 to 24. It went up. I haven't done the information yet for 24 to 25, but when it went up about 30. So it wasn't
Right.
wasn't
So,
large.
with regard to school budget, the school budget keeps going up. The population stays the same. Just something to think about. Okay. As a resident of Summers for the last 23 years, when we have these meetings, I always hear what's going on in other towns and how they're raising their stuff and we're staying lower. And I personally don't like being put against other towns, like saying about what other towns are doing. I think it's important for us to focus on our town, not what Ellington is doing or what Stafford's doing with our money. Tim, with regard to the town hall, when you said that, I think this was where that came from, the employees, the insurance, the health insurance has gone up for employees like 10%,
right.
11%. It said that the town pays $1,800 a month for somebody's insurance. How much does the employee pay?
11% of the cost.
Yep.
We raised that from 10% to 11% 2 years ago.
So the town employee,
So that's the total cost, is the 1,800 is now over 2,000 a month on average per
right, so
person.
the person pays $200 a month for health insurance? That works in this town?
On average, yes, and depending on the
Is that a state thing? Okay.
State plan.
All right.
depending on what plan there are, if they're
Wow.
single.
So they have excellent benefits. Okay.
That's a good point, though. There are excellent benefits, and that's
They are excellent.
one of the issues that
Okay.
I raise
Okay.
when people want a pay increase.
We talked about the solar farm that reduced our tax income. Who decides when we have solar farms? Like, do we decide as a town to say no, or how does that work?
Connecticut Siting Council makes that decision.
Yeah, however, we get to participate in the discussion and comment on the proposal, which we did this year, the proposal on South Road, and we're quite successful in getting to change. First of all, the Siting Council turned it down initially. Then they came back with many changes, which really accommodated probably 90% of the town's concerns. So we felt that we did have some input, even though legally, Siting Council has exclusive jurisdiction. But they have paid attention to the town's concerns.
Okay.
One thing I'd like to say about the exemption, because I was told that, I was asked by someone last week, gee, are all solar farms exempt? They are not. The one up on Bilton Road is a bit unique. There is an exemption, statewide exemption, a law that says if you have less than 2, is it megawatts?
Yeah,
Megawatts.
Yeah, less than 2.
If you produce less than 2 megawatts with your facility, your solar facility, you're tax exempt. In that case, they produce over 7 megawatts. However, the person that purchased and built the farm is a former New York attorney, very smart guy. He separated the farm, the solar farm, into 4 different units, created 4 different LLCs, made him president of each one of them, and therefore qualified for the exemption.
Wow.
We challenged that.
Okay.
He spent over $80,000 in legal fees and realized that this guy could go on forever because he has a bottomless pit of money. And we just decided as a best position for the town was to negotiate a settlement when the settlement was that he would pay the $80,000 that it cost us for legal fees.
Okay. All right.
And he was tax exempt, so, but the other solar farms are still abide by the state rules that if you produce more than 2 megawatts, you are not tax exempt and you do pay taxes.
Okay. All right. So once this budget happens, if we approve it as a town, then along in October come the reevaluation people driving around town looking at our houses, getting ready to say, oh, your house is valued much more than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So should we expect another tax increase on our personal property.
I would think that next year, just like you see with Coventry and Tolland, that the mill rates will go down. I'm using them as an example because they're in revaluation right now. So, I mean, Tolland, I mean, for a 10 mil almost 10 mil decrease in Tolland is massive.
Yes.
And so to see what reval did there, their mill rates dropped. And that's not to say that, you know, your taxes don't change, but your mill rate does. And so now you re-leveled the playing field. Everybody's houses are now readjusted. And 5 years from now, we'll do the same thing again because of
I
state
thought we
law.
did a 10-year reval.
It's every 5 years. by
It's every
state
5
law.
years now. Oh, okay.
And so, yes, I do anticipate the mill rate to go down. I do anticipate homes in town, their values to go up. Currently, based on an average right now, the average house in town is about 38%, is valued at about 38% of what its actual sale price is. So if you were to sell a house for $100,000, you're technically valued right now at about $38,000. So yes, I do expect to see values go up. Alternatively, you would see the mill rate go down.
Because people will
They're
be
supposed to
paying
balance.
more taxes.
Because you'd pay the same amount of tax, you would just pay it on a higher amount at a lower rate.
Well, yeah, maybe. Okay. All right, well, that's all I got, guys. I want to thank you all for being up here, for supporting our town, for working hard for our town. I totally appreciate it. Thanks.
You have other comments?
Janice Martin, 92 Colorado Drive. Speaking of exemptions, all right, I have a question. I know we have 4 properties on Hall Hill Road that are assessed at $5,508,000 and $5,508,820,000. Okay. At town meetings, Hillsdale said they were committed to compensating the town for the lost tax revenue. In fact, an impact analysis authorized by them on February 19th, 2020 stated, and I'll read it, the applicant has proposed a $25 million endowment to maintain the properties and generate income to compensate the town of Somers, Connecticut for any loss of taxes that would have been generated if the subject property had remained on the town of Somers tax roll.
What are you quoting from there? I'm just curious.
This is an impact statement that they sent to us in February 19th, 2020.
Oh.
Okay. I want to know if we have received any funds from them.
This is a subject I'm very interested in myself, by the way. But I think it needs to be dealt with very diplomatically. Because you're dealing with an organization that is tax exempt because of their religious affiliation. That's been determined. That's what you're dealing with. So when you approach them and you raise the word taxes, they will basically say, we don't pay taxes, which they don't. But they do other things. So it's incumbent upon us as the leaders of the town to come up with things that they can pay for that would greatly benefit the town, but are not in lieu of taxes.
Yeah,
If you use the word tax, you're
it doesn't
dead, I
say
can tell you right now.
taxes. It says an endowment that will compensate us. All right?
Okay, the purpose of the endowment I'm very familiar with because I was involved with creating it. It's a trust. And the purpose of it is to support the properties and the homes. That's it.
So, in other words, when they told us that they were going to compensate us for lost tax revenue,
I'm not sure that they actually said that. I think Bud Norman has said that.
I think we could go back.
But I don't think Hillsdale said that. So
And I don't think a yearly fishing derby. Just
and again, I think you could help me be creative in trying to come up with what are some things that they can do, whether it be to assist the police department or the fire department or the schools, for that matter, that could help the town and meet with their vision and their sort of philosophy.
Well,
Maybe, would you help me do that? I'm asking you. I need help. I need ideas. Literally. It's a tough...
I was sitting at meetings and they said,
well, I can
we'll
just...
take care of it. We'll take care of it.
I'm
still
sorry.
waiting.
That's not going to get you anywhere, I'll guarantee you. I just... if you try to force that issue, they'll kill you.
Well,
The word tax does not go over well.
no, it's,
You got to be a
I
little more
realize
creative than that.
I know it's not a tax.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other folks? Right here.
Joan Rivard, 74 Maple Ridge Drive. In regard to the little discussion we just had, I was at those meetings, and they did say they would cover the taxes.
Who said it?
They're high-priced lawyers they brought with them.
Yeah, well,
You hear it, Tom.
okay,
No, I don't, it's not a discussion right now, I just don't want that to be said, let go, because it's there, and I've been waiting ever since all that happened to see Aggie Road Fishing Derby is very sweet and nice. It doesn't throw money into the.
yeah, I'm well aware of that, and again, you want to help me come up with some ideas that we could come up with.
I got it, John.
We could come up with some ideas on ways they could assist the town. I would love to hear that.
Cash money.
As long as you don't use the word
Donation.
tax.
They can give you a donation.
Yeah. And by the way, that $25,000 trust endowment was not available until Helen...
25 million.
25 million. Until Helen Blake passed away, which is about 6 weeks ago.
She did?
Yes, she did. And that was only in the Springfield papers. And I have a feeling that her family didn't think it was all that worthwhile to put it in the Connecticut papers. So she was 92 years old.
She was a lovely lady.
She sure was. So, but just to let you know, that money has not been available until after she passed. So I'm following it very closely, I can assure you.
Good.
Thank you. Others?
Lisa Horan, 43 Shadydale Lane. First point I wanted to make is that I feel that we do need to hear about the expenditure and revenue challenges and choices in other towns because they reflect circumstances that we all face, and we can learn from how other towns are dealing with them. Second, education spending does not and has not historically in Summers increased each year. In reality, more commonly, the education budgets are either level service at best, so services are maintained at the previous year's level with a slight inflationary increase, or most challengingly, level funded. The Board of Finance tells the Board of Ed, we're not giving you any more this year, make it work. That's what usually happens. It doesn't increase each year. When the education budget requests increase, it's due to, most often, the need to see staff salaries and benefits remain even remotely competitive with other towns, the ever upward spiral of healthcare costs, which drives insurance benefit cost increases, and the ever-increasing cost of utilities. So the education budgets in Summers have not automatically gone up each year. That's not true. Of the total 29 districts in Summers DRG, that's a group of towns and districts that are socioeconomically similar to ours, 29 towns, only 6 of them spend less per pupil on education than Summers does. The average amount spent per pupil in our group is $23,831. Summers spends $3,175 less per pupil than the average in our group. In spite of this, the Summers Board of Ed and Superintendent Galloway are leading significant strides, returns on investment. with the elementary school and middle school of the year, Summers High School ranking statewide, rocketing up, and I think they are doing remarkable things, especially in light of the fact that only 6 schools in our group spend less on education per pupil than we do. And, sorry. I appreciate that the boards of education and selectmen draw their budgets each year with an eye on maximizing the value of every one of our tax dollars, and the Board of Finance is there to work cooperatively with them, but always with an eye toward that being the primary goal, while also dealing with the realities that, just like in our homes, costs go up every year. It has to be dealt with. And if we have, as Mr. Wissinger said, the average assessed value of a home in Summers is $204,522. If we approve the requested mill rate increase, that means that that homeowner's taxes for the year will increase $255.65. That's $4.92 a week. I approve. Thank you.
Other comments? Yes, sir.
David Marty, 50 Springfield Road. I just want to touch on the fact on the unfunded mandates from the state, and you pointed out a couple of the large ones. But this past year with the early voting, the early voting was unbelievable how much, in light of these other bigger numbers, it's not as significant. But I think Dave McCaffrey said on some of our early voting, it ended up costing $95 per vote. And this next year, what we have facing ahead to is the no reason or no excuse absentee ballots. And the absentee ballots fall on the town clerk's department. And so I see that number also growing. And so Hartford has to stop. Yep. But I want everybody to be aware of how much these unfunded mandates really impact us and makes it a real challenge. And with the cuts coming out of D.C. too, I just see it getting worse.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else? Others? Well, thank you all for coming. I want to let you know that on May 6th, there'll be a town meeting to vote on the budget. And on the 20th, there will be there'll be a referendum vote, after which the Board of Finance will set the mill rate. Thank you very much.
I just like to compliment the group that's here tonight. We set a record with the number of people who showed up for a meeting like this. We got over 65 people in the room, so it's outstanding. Thank you very much.